You know, Airbnb isn't all it's cracked up to be, and being a landlord, an annual landlord, is also not all it's cracked up to be. I have 20 years of experience as an annual landlord and probably about 4 as an Airbnb host. Let me tell you a little bit of the stuff that you may want to avoid doing if you're going to get into this business. And it's really a conversation about how you should approach the number crunching a little bit before you even invest into a property. And if you have a property that you're considering turning into an annual or into an Airbnb, listen up, okay? First of all, let me just start by saying I absolutely love being a landlord. Now, I know not a lot of people do, but I do. I love it. Now, there's a lot of headaches that come along with that, but my personality seems to be made for being a landlord slash slumlord. I do have low income properties, and I think this is the first thing that we should talk about, because if you're going to have low income properties, meaning properties that are in kind of crappy neighborhoods or maybe, you know, really junky properties, then Airbnb is not an option, okay? You're not gonna get this place rented, and then you're gonna get bad reviews. Because even if you get great photos and you make it look really awesome and you get the inside looking great and really, you know, great for entertaining and so on, for your vacation, you're still gonna get bad reviews because people are gonna be like, I did not feel safe in this neighborhood. I did not feel like my kids can go outside. I was afraid to get the luggage out of my car. These are the comments you're gonna get. And if you don't have a 5-star review rating on Airbnb, good luck. This is the #1 way you get street cred by Airbnb, and this is how you get bookings. People are going to go and trust you because that is the only social proof you have that you're going to be a good host, aka landlord. So if you're going into any kind of property that's low income or, you know, not that good of a location, just forget about it. Annual rentals is the only way to go. But a lot of times when you look at properties out there and you're considering buying one, then you have to look at what's the potential on the rent income, right? Like, it's a numbers game. That's all it is. And many times the numbers don't make sense. If you're gonna go and buy a property and it's in a low income neighborhood, you'd pretty much need to make the numbers work by doing short-term rentals. And once again, I'm telling you, it's not gonna work very well. So you start number crunching the annual rental and you're gonna see you're gonna make, you know, not enough to pay the mortgage. And that's not good enough, okay? This is a profit business. This is not a business where you add some money every single month until the rents go up. That is not the way it should be. You should be cash flowing from day one, and in my opinion, you should be cash flowing quite a bit from day one, at least $300-400, because things go up, like insurance goes up and taxes go up, and you don't want to be stuck with a zero profit from day one, and then 1 year later, when your escrow amount goes up, you're in a negative, and now you're contributing to your business, okay? Although that is a strategy too, so maybe I should touch on that real quick. If you decide to contribute into your business every single month, well, it may not serve you very well in the short run, but it probably will serve you very well in the long run. And I say that to say this: if you have to put in $200, $300 a month, call it $300. $3,600 a year for 3 years. That's less than $10,000. Well, let me tell you something. By the way that properties appreciate and rents go up, you're gonna offset that money in the next year or 2 years after that. So don't worry about it too much, although you should try to aim to get the properties that cash flow from day one. And right now it seems like the only way to get things to cash flow is to do short-term rentals or breaking down into a pad split. Now, if you have not heard of pad split, it is a website, it's a platform for basically medium-term rentals, and what you're doing is you're renting rooms, okay? Now, I did this a long time ago before pad split existed, and renting rooms was like awesome. I made so much money, you know, for me, who I was like, what, 22 at the time, okay? It was great. I was making more money on my rental than I was at my regular job. But you shouldn't have to rely on that kind of scenario, although it's a good strategy, so I do recommend you look into it as a medium-term strategy. So now let's circle back around to the low-income properties, the ones that are not in the best neighborhoods. You have to make sure that you're gonna be cash flowing in an annual rental scenario, because if you are not a good Airbnb host, or if you're not a good host for the medium term rentals, which would be like 1 month, 2 months, and so on, then you probably just want to be an annual landlord, because let me tell you, that's the easiest one of them all. I definitely prefer to do the annual rentals than I do the short-term rentals. And I definitely know people who have purchased properties intending for them to be Airbnbs, and then they don't get booked. Okay, they don't get booked, or they get extra taxes that they didn't know about. And yes, in my area, Sarasota, Florida, there is a tourist development tax. There is a tax for the state of Florida, 6%. It starts adding up real quick. Next thing you know, it's kind of expensive to rent your place, and you're not going to be able to rent it without cheating the tax system for as much as you thought you were going to be able to, and now all of a sudden all your numbers don't make sense. And some people definitely do longer term rentals on Airbnb. Well, they might say, you know, we have a 7-month minimum or something like that, because there is a way to get around the whole tax thing. You just have to, you know, at least in the state of Florida. So basically it means you have to have a rental for more than 6 months. And you also have to deal with your homeowners association, with your local code enforcement, with nosy neighbors and just jerk neighbors. You know, there's a lot of problems that can happen when you have a short-term rental that you're not thinking about, and you're like, it's probably not gonna be that bad. It can be that bad. Have I been turned in for renting a short-term rental in a place that wasn't supposed to be short-term? Yes, I didn't get fined, thankfully, but the local fine is $5,000, right? I just was asked to stop, and I did. And then what about a homeowner association? You know, a lot of people in Florida, they want to buy a condo because they're a lot cheaper than homes, and then they want to rent it out during the off season, during the summer, like right now, which is hot as hell out here, okay? Today's all overcast, and we're just in the high 80s, and they're thinking people are going to come and visit in the middle of summer to Florida. And let me tell you, not that many people visit in Florida. They come for January, February, and March. And during those months, that's when the owner wants to use it. But that's the peak season for when you can actually rent that place and get the most amount of money. You really have to start thinking about a lot of things if you're considering getting into this business. And I'm just talking about my local area, but a lot of these things will apply to other areas as well. For example, being a long-term landlord versus a short-term landlord, what do you do if you have a squatter? Look, I don't know how they do it in New York, except for they screw the owners, but I do know how they do it here in Florida. Governor DeSantis passed a law that went into effect just about 6-7 days ago, which basically says squatters are out. You don't have to go through the whole eviction process. And even if you did have to go through the eviction process, it will only take you about 3 to 4 weeks in Florida if you know what you're doing, right? Some states or some countries like Canada, this thing can take years, and that's just crazy to me. So before you invest, you need to learn and research what are landlord-friendly states, where are landlord-friendly countries. Look, this video is really a warning sign that if you don't know what you're getting into, then you might get yourself into a deep hole that you may not be able to get out of. Now, for example, this lady, she is a single mom in Durham, North Carolina. You know what happened to her? She did a 7-month rental on Airbnb, and after the people's lease ran out, they said, we're not leaving. This is our domicile. This is our homestead. This is our home. What the hell is wrong with people? You rent something for 7 months, then you get out after 7 months, okay? That's just how it's supposed to work. But it didn't work like this for this lady. Farzana Rahman, she rented this place, just a 2-bedroom, 2-bath property on Airbnb. Nice and innocent. She rented it. People were supposed to be out in May. Mind you, right now, we are at the beginning of July, and just a few days ago, she finally got possession of her property. That's like way over a month, 2 months. Now imagine it like this. People are like, oh, it's not that bad. 1 month, 2 months of lost rent, not that bad. All right, let's talk about it, because I'm a numbers guy. So let's just do the math. Let's just say that property, that 2-bed, 2-bath rents for $2,000 a month. You had 2 months of downtime, $4,000. That's where it adds up to. $4,000 someone took out of your pocket. And what about the attorney fees? If you hired an attorney to evict, it's probably going to be $1,000, right? That's $5,000 now out of your pocket. What about if you did the eviction yourself? About $400. So $4,400 out of your pocket, not too bad. Well, I think that is too bad. That's a bunch of crap. And I don't think that you should be getting into this business without realizing some of the risks that are in this business. And the only reason why she got her possession back so quickly, which was like almost 2 months, was because the tenants did not show up to court. And that is like the best way to get possession back, right? If the people don't show up to court, then you basically, the judge is going to rule in your favor because they don't even care to go and, fight for the court case against them. So that's what happened to her, and she got her property back, and good for her. I'm glad, and I like hearing these things when a landlord wins a case that is very unjust, like in this case. But how do you prevent that in the first place? Well, it starts off by knowing what you're getting into. It starts off with you studying. It starts off with you learning some of the pros and cons of being a landlord, whether it's short-term or long-term, doesn't matter, in your area, or at least where you want to invest into, right? So she obviously had a medium-term tenant. She didn't have a long-term tenant. She didn't have a short-term tenant. She had someone for 7 months. That's a medium term. So great. For the 7 months, she collected rent and she was happy. And then basically those people took a haircut on her earnings significantly, because if you do a little more math, you realize it wasn't just $4,500. It ended up being a total of 2 out of 9. So 1 over 4.5, because there was 7 months rented, then 2 months of vacancy. So that, and then the 2 months didn't get paid. So that's 2 months of unpaid over 9. That is 1 over 4.5. That sounds to me like it's about 22.2% of the potential income that she could have made just got a haircut, and she lost out on that. And before you renters go out there and say, oh, they were justified because rent is so high, consider this. Everything is high. Okay, law of supply and demand actually causes the prices to go up and down, not a greedy landlord and not a greedy tenant. Okay, all that happens is supply and demand. As we get more supply, then the prices will start coming down. As we get more demand, the prices start going up. It just works that way. Okay, so stop talking crap and just saying that the market is overinflated, blah blah blah. Listen, it might be expensive, but this is what the current market rent is because of the law of supply and demand. This is basic economics. If you don't know what supply and demand is, go back to Economics 101. Go back, I mean, it's taught in high school, for God's sake. So go back there and learn about that, and then come back and make a comment about this video, how it doesn't make sense to you, okay? Because it probably will make sense at that point in time. It's not about the greedy landlords and all that. But if you're gonna be a landlord, don't be overly greedy, because you won't rent the property, because once again, the law of supply and demand, okay? So now let's just get back to what you can do to really make sure you have some success at being a landlord. First and foremost, decide which way are you going? Are you going into annual, or are you going into short term, okay? If you're going into short term, I'll make it quick. All you have to do is make sure that the municipality allows what you want to do. That's the number one block right there, the county or the city. The second thing is, if there's a homeowner association or condo association, make sure they will allow you to do it, because they're going to catch you before anyone else does. Third of all, you want to make sure that there isn't too much supply already in your area, and you want to put on the hat of the renter, go on Airbnb and pretend to book something for, every month of the year, for a week, for a month, for whatever it is that you're trying to do, and see what the actual prices could be. But then you have to take a haircut of about 20% off the price that you are quoted online, because that is approximately the profit margin that that Airbnb or VRBO takes. They upcharge it about 18%, and then you add fees here, fees there, and all that. So now let's say everything matches up for you and everything is looking good. Then go ahead and buy something for short-term rental. But you have to have the backup plan for that one. The backup plan is annual rental. And how do you calculate the backup plan? Easy. Go on Zillow, try to get a rental for, in your area, and see what the going rate is for that type of property. You could also go to Rentometer. Rentometer is .com. It's a great website that I use that helps me figure out how much market rent should be when I'm pricing a rental in an area that I'm not familiar with. For example, I might be looking at a 5-unit or something, somewhere that's a little further than I've ever managed a property at or ever owned a property at. Well, to determine what fair market rent is in that area, I'll use Rentometer, which I do have a subscription to. And now make sure that that property that you want to buy for Airbnb, that whatever the Rentometer price tells you should rent it at, that it actually does get rented and covers all the costs that you have. Your principal, your interest, your taxes, and insurance. And if you're going to be managing yourself, you don't need a management fee of 10%, but you should put away an extra 10% for vacancy rate in case you have a 1-month vacancy, or it's actually like a 36-day vacancy, 10% of the year. So you need to have all the numbers. If you don't know how to crunch those numbers, oh, geez, you need to do a lot of studying, okay? A lot of studying, and that's okay. We all start, at the beginning, right? So what if you actually just want to do annual rentals and that's all you're interested in? Like me, that's really all I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in being a host that much. I'm not the most, hospitable person in that sense where I make you feel all welcome and everything, which is why my fiance runs that part of the business, because she's a lot better than I am at that. So what you want to do is you want to take the purchase price, put it into a mortgage calculator with your down payment and figure out what your payment's going to be. And then you want to go on Rentometer and make sure it's going to rent for that much money. I mean, it's that simple. And you need to add all your allocations. You need to have a repair allocation, a vacancy allocation, a property manager allocation. There's all these extra expenses, even though they're not necessarily expenses, they might be loss of revenue, but it counts the same on a spreadsheet basically. So you want to go and number crunch this stuff and make sure that you can profit on this property, okay? Let me tell you something. Since 2019, in my area, Sarasota, Florida, Bradenton, Florida, Northport, Florida, it is hard, very hard, to make a property cash flow unless you have a 50% down payment, which I don't, and even if I did, I wouldn't, okay? And when it comes to the interest rates being so high as they are right now, it is extremely difficult to make that happen. But if you want to talk more about this, just click the link below, reach out to me, find my phone number, just Google my name. I am out there. My name is Maciek Zaremba. I'm a real estate agent in Sarasota, Florida. I am with Fathom Realty, and I'm here to try to teach you about all this stuff and hopefully get you excited about investing, because if you can break even at the beginning, or you can cash flow a little bit at the beginning, let me tell you something, you are setting yourself up for serious success. And I'm talking about serious success, because what happens over time is the rent prices keep going up. I mean, it's like everything else. The cars ever get cheaper? Does milk ever get cheaper? Do eggs ever get cheaper? No. If you look at the average price of milk for every year for the last 25 years, I'm pretty sure it's just on a straight incline all the way, right? Same thing with rents. They pretty much, not always, sometimes it pulls back a little bit, but pretty much always on an incline going up. So if you're breaking even now and you got a 30-year fixed rate, awesome. Think about what it'll look like in 2 years, what it'll look like in 5 years, what it will look like in 20 years. I've been a landlord for over 20 years. I've had over 500 tenants. It starts getting really good, okay? So do that, and if you can actually just buy a property outright, well, slightly different number calculation, but you don't have to be dependent on such high rents to make your money work for you. What questions do you have? Please drop a comment.